So one fun fact I want to share with you. Does any of you know what the name Jacob means in Hebrew? No? It means the liar. So I want you to hear this again real quick. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of liars, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. I love Isaiah so much. I have not actually seen any textual critics say this, but I firmly believe that he does this on purpose all the time. If you read the book of Isaiah, he's often saying, "O house of Jacob, O house of Israel." And he'll make one petition to the people of the God of Jacob, and then make a different petition to the people of the God of Israel. Does anyone remember what the word Israel means? No? One who wrestles with God. The dialectic is not between being good and being bad. It is not between being a liar and a truth teller. It is between being someone caught in a fiction and someone trying to work it out. That this is actually the transition of faith. It's not going from being a liar to being a truth teller, or more importantly, someone who knows the absolute right truth and now can live it out. But it is moving from being someone who is deceiving others and themselves to being someone who is actively wrestling with God. The next time you see God of Jacob, God of Israel, just remember that that's the pairing, and that I think Isaiah is doing that all very much on purpose. Now, why do I bring that up here? Because do you think that it is a naive proposition to say a nation should not learn war anymore? It's very naive. What if I told you that you didn't have to fight? What would you say? You would ask me, what do I mean by fight? Right? Well, so let's talk for a second about what is fighting. When you use the word fight, what do you mean? Sure. So you're thinking physical, violent conflict. You're talking about arguing. Have you ever heard this quote from Asada Shakur? It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love one another and care for one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It's an amazing chant that's often said. Asada Shakur was a soldier in the Black Liberation Army and is currently in exile. Well, she's a refugee, maybe, fleeing the United States government in Cuba currently. But that rallying cry is often spoken in the movement for Black lives. And every Black person I've ever talked to said that you absolutely have to fight. You have to fight. Life is fighting. Life is struggle. And that's where I ask the question. See, I believe that fighting is a framework for change, but I'm not sure that it's the only framework for change. Yes?
These words are on the United Nations building in New York, telling all the countries of the world, they don't need to fight, we can talk this out.
And I think this is an important thing for us because fighting is such an important frame of reference for us. What are you fighting right now?
Me.
You're fighting yourself. Yeah, we talk about that all the time. I'm fighting my urges, right? People that have some stuff around managing food talk about fighting their cravings, right? Folks that are dealing with other forms of addictive behavior talking about fighting those urges. We're fighting our parents for liberation, for freedom, for our thinking. We're fighting our kids to get them to eat food, right? Fighting to stay optimistic. Sure. Fighting is just a framework that we use for change, but often we use it synonymously with words like conflict, disagreement, misunderstanding, difference of opinion. And I want to offer that that makes me uncomfortable that those things end up being synonymous for us in our culture. I think we need to be more thoughtful about how we talk about fighting and whether we think that whether we think we could be naive enough to believe we never have to fight anymore. Yeah.
There are some things that are worth fighting for, like injustice. You fight injustice in the world on the behalf of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I can see your idea that maybe that isn't the best word for that.
Sure.
Fighting.
So evangelicals have this cool hook. I love it. I hate it, but I love it. They say it's already accomplished. Right? Which we're like, bullshit. Right? Like we just talked about a minute ago. If love is the solution and love's not a new idea, then something's not working out right. Right? This whole idea of Isaiah from thousands of years ago, that suddenly there's going to be a mountain and everyone's going to stream to it. We're like, yeah, not happening. Seems like we're even more divided. Seems like there's even more distance between people. How can evangelicals claim it's already accomplished? Well, what if they're not stating a fact as much as they're stating an orientation? What if instead of moving from having to believe that that's true, we said that's a proposition that we're willing to orient around? What would it mean for you to actually assume that it is accomplished and that you don't have to fight to change the world? You just have to participate in the way of God. Which means, of course, you have to listen and figure out what that is. If Isaiah says that instruction shall stream forth from Zion, then somehow we've got to catch that and then follow it, right? But Isaiah assumes that God is at work already. And that Isaiah's job is to welcome people into that work. Not to convince them, not to cajole them, not really even to change them, just to kind of reveal it to them. Now that sounds naive as all get it, right? To believe that it's already accomplished. Well, what does it do in your spirit when you believe it's already accomplished? Whatever conflict, whatever disagreement, whatever argument, whatever frustration you have, what does it do to your spirit to believe it's already accomplished? It's already solved.
When you ask, and that changes face that doesn't force the conflict on your face from serenity too.
Right? I don't have to be fearful about this anymore. My anger is actually my fear, right? More confidence. The trick, of course, is how you orient to the person who's bringing the disagreement or with whom you have conflict. Because sometimes it's already accomplished means God's going to give you your comeuppance. I mean, let's be clear. Isaiah later is very sure that some people are about to get fucked up by God, right? There's going to be lots of punishment that's going to happen, right? And that is part of how Isaiah frames out that security is y'all going to get yours, right? Which is not an attitude or position of love at all, right? And sometimes we can go that way in order to have our security, right? Like, oh, I'm in conflict with this person. Well, they're an idiot. So like, I'm just going to let this bridge burn. It's fine. You know, you go do your thing. I know I'm right. Can be one way of saying it is accomplished. But that still leaves me with all this anxiety and frustration and opposition. I maintain my opposition. The goal of trusting that it is accomplished is that I don't have anything to oppose. anymore. See, fighting is a framework for change, but it's not the only framework for change. And what it does, thinking about fighting puts us looking for someone to oppose. We're looking for our opponent that we are to defeat or somehow subdue, or at least kind of isolate, right? So that we can accomplish our goal. But when we fight, we stop focusing on the goal and we start focusing on the opposition to the goal. What if fighting is the thing that needs to change? Instead of fighting for change, what if the thing we need to change is our willingness, desire, and easy ability to fight? What if that's the promise of Isaiah? What if that's the promise of Jesus? I have lots of opportunities to fight because I love people. And loving people makes it very easy to fight with people because people are close to you and you trust them enough to tell them what's really important to you. And so often when we are fighting, we're trying to stake a claim about something, right? And then the other person doesn't necessarily agree with us, right? And we get into some conflict. But so often our fighting is actually about kind of preserving our, I want to say dignity, but that's never what I'm preserving when I'm in a fight. My ego, right? I'll call it my dignity, I'll call it whatever, but what I'm actually preserving is my ego. I was talking to this guy the other day about fighting. He said the opposite well, I was talking to him about how I'm trying to teach my son that the only thing that fighting produces is resentment. So the only thing that comes out of fighting, about making an enemy out of opposition with somebody, is resentment. And he said, well, yes, but it also produces its opposite. And he framed the opposite of resentment as guilt, which I thought was really interesting. So I asked him more about it and he said, well, because sometimes when I'm in a fight with somebody, the outcome is I feel really guilty about having gotten into that fight in the first place. I feel really guilty about things I may have said or done while I was in it. But more than that, I just feel bad that even had to happen in the first place. And the problem to me is always comes back to this fact that I have framed out my solution to this problem as opposition. So I ask you, where in your life are you engaged in a fight with yourself, with things about yourself? Where are you engaged in a fight with the world? Where are you engaged in a fight politically? Where are you engaged in a fight around rights, resources? And where are you getting bitter as a result? Where are you getting hardened as a result? Are there any fights that are actually liberating you? Or are they just confirming your position, belief, location, and confirming who's not where you are?
Fight against something in your head, just where news and reading and talking, or you're actually literally fighting against something. You're not supporting what you love. You're not supporting the talk. You kind of waste your energy. That's what I do. I refuse that because I put my energy on that is either beneficial to me or to my cause. And fighting kind of, we see wasting totally in my head. Just thinking about what does that do? Just gets me aggravated.
One of my colleagues said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. I think we really need to challenge the idea of fighting. We don't need to fight with the idea of fighting, right? The thing I've learned about the voices in my head that tell me I'm not enough is that if I fight with them, what happens? They get louder. They get louder. Come on, interesting. Even if you've had a political conversation that felt like a fight and it never got quieter. Never. Never. Oh, you have it.
Well, no, actually, I want to go back.
Go for it.
So there's lots to be said in gospel writings about righteousness. And righteousness in and of itself is kind of a provocative word. So how is that reconciled in this?
Absolutely, great question. So righteousness, typically in popular parlance and popular American English, has this, it has more to do with self-righteousness than biblical righteousness. Right? Typically, when we use the word righteousness, we're usually talking about being right. Right? Being, has some connection to being pure, being honest, being a full manifestation of God's certainty, right? That is not biblical righteousness at all. Now, it's funny because biblical righteousness can produce some of that, but it's not the goal. Biblical righteousness is more accurately translated right relationship. Right relationship. And when one is in right relationship, then one produces certain kinds of outcomes, certain kinds of goods, certain kinds of ways of being that feel pure and honest and righteous. But the goal is not being right or correct. Biblically, the goal is to be in right relationship. You know what we need to reclaim? You know what word we really need to get back? Meekness. Now, in popular American English today, if I called you meek, what did I just do? I insulted you. Why? Weak, helpless, powerless, wimpy, spineless. You guys, this is a complete misunderstanding of this word. This is why we get back to the Greek. Does anybody remember what the Greek word that's translated meekness is? All right, you got to learn this one. This is an important word. Prautes. Prautes. Prautes means gentle strength of divine origin. Meekness says, I don't have to fight you because it's already done. I don't need to go and into this. I don't need to get pissed off because I know I'm a big ass rock and here's some water and you gonna move around, right? I don't need to get fearful. I don't need to get mad. I don't need to correct you or change you or make you grow up. God's at work in your life. God's at work in my life. My job is to be in right relationship with God. And when I am, I will have prautes. When I am in my prayer life, when I'm in my humble walk, when I'm in relationship with my people, God will start revealing to me that that shit is real. God will start helping me very clearly sort out between what is worth my attention and energy and what is a distraction. I've been reading about the Christian mystics, I've been reading about asceticism, and I've been reading about wilderness theology, and consistently the thing I'm seeing is we are distracted. So one of the things I'm hanging all these folks together on, we are distracted. Now, the Christian mystics thought we were distracted by sexuality and our bodies, and I think they missed the boat. The Black women theologians are saying we are distracted by oppression. We are distracted by power dynamics and our desire to secure our bodies instead of being obedient to real authority, shared authority, an authority that loves us and calls forth the best in us. And that our obedience to that does not then put us in conflict with other people. It puts us in conflict with these systems, structures, and forces that want us to believe that we deserve suffering. And we say to hell with it. But we don't do it in opposition. We don't do it to fight. We do it because we know on some level who we are, who God is, that the arc of the universe bends towards justice, and we live that out. But the teaching is that there's places in us that we have become complicit with this idea of dominance, of violence, this logic of control, this logic of fighting, that we have an enemy that we must defeat in order to achieve peace. What if the thing we have to end, what if the problem is the concept of fighting itself? How does your faith in God help you decide to be naive enough to stop fighting? How does your faith in God help you decide that you are willing to be naive enough to stop fighting? I believe that I am waiting for an alternative to fighting as a framework for change. That's the Jesus I'm waiting for and waiting on.